Okay, so we're going to talk about data tables and graphing. So when you're creating a data table, there are some rules that you need to follow. Using a ruler, using a pencil, unless you're doing it on the computer, making sure that the independent variable goes in the first column, the dependent variable goes in the second column, making sure that you have units, making sure that if you have multiple trials that you split the column, and that you add measurements for everything that you have. These are important rules. So if you look at this one, this is a sample of what it should look like. You have the title, you have independent variable here. You're listing, different levels, like if you tested it 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it goes here. This would be the dependent variable, whatever that may be. And then it's trial 1, trial 2, and then you may have additional trials or an average column that you would put here. Let's try one for practice. Lake Martin has no pollution, but Lay Lake is polluted. The growth of frogs in Lake Martin was 15 grams in week 1, 22 grams in week 2, 41 grams in week 3. The growth of the frogs in Lay Lake was 13 grams in week 1, 18 grams in week 2, and 29 grams in week 3. Create a data table for the data. On the next slide, we're going to show you how to set it up. All right, so pause the video right now and create this data table. Okay, so let's look at the data table that you created. So basically, the effects of pollution would be the title. It's very important that you have a title. Then you have 2 lakes, Lake Martin and Lay Lake. You have 3 weeks, right? So you put your values in here. And then notice that you have grams as your unit. So you're going to make sure that you have a unit for all of your measurements as well. So check against yours and see if it looks like this. Okay. All right, now let's talk about graph. Once you have this data, you're going to put it into a graph. And so the first thing you have to decide is what type of graph are you going to use. So the first question you ask is the data continuous, meaning it's connected, or discrete, meaning it's not connected, okay? If it's continuous, then you're going to use a line graph. So again, you would put your independent variable here, your dependent variable here, and you would plot your points, okay? For a lot of the line graphs, you'll actually connect the dots. But for some you won't, and we'll talk about that on the next page. For discrete data or non-continuous data, it's not numeric, you would use a bar graph. So you would put your scale here, this would be your independent, and this would be your dependent, right? So maybe you're doing favorite flavors of ice cream, so you'd put vanilla, strawberry, chocolate, whatever, and then you put how many people that you surveyed or whatnot chose that particular flavor. Now, sometimes you'll have, sometimes you'll have data that is continuous, but you need an actual mathematic formula or some more specific data or to calculate. So you'll use a line of best fit. If the data is continuous and you need to make extrapolations or predictions, you'll need to get the line, or the equation of the line. So you'll do a line of best fit or a trend line that basically represents all of the data points. And at that point, you can do mathematic calculations. Okay, so a couple of things you need to remember when doing a graph. You need to use graph paper, a ruler, and a pencil. If you do it on the computer, you will use Google Sheets. You need to use even intervals. So if you count by fives and it needs to go 5, 10, 15, 20, you can't go 5, 15, 30, 75. That's not okay. You have to do even intervals when you label your graph. You need to make sure that your y-axis has a title, which would be the dependent variable, and units, and that your x-axis has the independent variable and it also has been labeled with units. You need to have a descriptive title. It can't be Bob's graph. It has to show what you are graphing, and if possible or needed, you'll need to have a key. or a legend, if some people call it. All right, so it would look like this, and you would have your dependent variable here on the y, and you would have your independent variable here on the x. And then you would put your even increments here. So it would be 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Same thing here, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And then you would plot your points from there. You need a title here. Very, very, very important that you have a title.